Wait, what if the man Anna Devane is home to protect the people she loves the most is actually the same man now whispering in her ear to end one of their lives? Nobody saw this coming, and honestly, nobody was even asking for it. Anna Devane is back in Port Charles this week, her family thrilled, her friends relieved, and on the surface, it looks like a happy homecoming. But according to official General Hospital spoilers, there is a darkness following her home that nobody at that welcome party can see. Peter August, the man who has been dead for a long time now, is very much alive inside Anna's mind, and reports suggest he did not come back peaceful. I'm Anderson, this is Soap Pulse, and if you love digging into the psychology behind these shocking soap twists as much as I do, go ahead and hit subscribe, because today we are unpacking exactly who Ghost Peter wants Anna to kill, and why the answer might be more disturbing than you think. Let's set the stage, because to understand how strange this is, you have to understand who Anna Devane actually is to this canon. She is not some fragile side character prone to hallucination for the sake of drama. Anna Devane is a former WSB agent, a woman who has survived assassination attempts, betrayal from people she loved, and a career built on being the most composed person in any room. She is police commissioner material, literally, because Port Charles has trusted her with that badge before, and according to spoilers, Dante is more than happy to hand that job right back to her the moment she walks through the door. That tells you something important. The people around Anna do not see a woman who is unraveling. They see the same steady, capable Anna Devane they've always known, which makes what's actually happening inside her head so much more unsettling, because the gap between how she appears and what she is experiencing internally could not be wider. Mac and Felicia Scorpio are overjoyed to have her back. Emma Drake is ready to reconnect. Gio Palmieri is part of that welcoming circle too. On paper, this is exactly what a homecoming should look like: warm, safe, full of relief. Anna slides back into her old apartment, back into her old rhythms, back into the hustle and flow of a life that once made sense to her. And that is precisely where the story gets uncomfortable, because while everyone around her is celebrating her return, Anna is privately dealing with something she has not told a single one of them. She is seeing Peter August, not in memory, not in a passing thought. She is hallucinating his physical presence, having actual private conversations with him, and by all accounts, she is lying to the people who love her most about the fact that it's happening at all. Now, here's where I want you to sit with the weight of that for a second, because this isn't just a ghost story for the sake of a spooky plot device. Think about who Peter August was to Anna and to this canon as a whole. Peter was revealed to be Anna's son, a son raised not by her, but by Caesar Faison, the show's most notorious and sadistic villain. Peter's childhood, by every account we've been given, was miserable. Some of it reportedly spent in boarding schools, shaped and warped under Faison's influence in ways that turned him into someone capable of manipulation, deception, and violence as an adult. Peter targeted people, he held grudges, he played long games, and even after his death, apparently, that instinct for control didn't leave him. If anything, spoilers suggest it's found a new host, using Anna's grief and unresolved trauma as the doorway back in. So the question becomes, why now? Why does Peter's presence resurface at the exact moment Anna is stepping back into her old life, her old authority, her old relationships? According to official spoilers, Anna comes home with what's being described as deadly intentions. That phrase alone should stop you in your tracks. Deadly intentions. not confusion, not grief. Intentions. That implies planning, implies a target, implies that whatever conversations are happening between Anna and this hallucinated version of Peter are pushing her towards something calculated rather than accidental. Stops being a simple "is Anna losing her mind" plot and becomes something much more layered, because if Peter is the one steering this, then the real question isn't just who Anna might hurt, it's whose death would actually satisfy Peter's own unfinished business. This isn't about Anna settling her own scores. According to the way these spoilers are framed, this appears to be Peter using Anna as an instrument for his agenda, someone he can whisper to, someone who trusts her own instincts enough that she might not immediately recognize when those instincts have been hijacked. So let's start working through the list, because there are several names being floated by insiders and longtime viewers, and each one carries its own disturbing logic. The first, and maybe the most historically loaded, is Valentin Cassadine. Here's why this name keeps surfacing. When Peter was just a defenseless infant, it was Valentin who handed him over to Faison. Think about that for a moment. A baby given away to one of the most dangerous men in Port Charles history, and the ripple effects of that single decision shaped the entire trajectory of Peter's life. Everything that came after, the manipulation, the darkness, the eventual reveal of who he'd become, traces back to that moment of abandonment. If there's anyone Peter has reason to despise on a primal, foundational level, it's the man who decided his fate before he could even talk. But here's an odd wrinkle worth pointing out, something that longtime viewers have noticed and that doesn't quite add up. Cassadine and Peter were reportedly both raised under Faison's influence, with something like a 5 to 10 year age gap between them. If that's the case, their time in that household should have overlapped in some way. Yet it's strange that this connection rarely, if ever, came up directly between them on screen. Valentin handed Cassadine over to Faison, Valentin also handed over Peter, and Faison apparently raised them both, but the show has never really dug into whether these two men, both damaged by the same source, ever crossed paths as children or had any awareness of each other growing up. That's a loose thread, and loose threads in soap storytelling almost always get pulled eventually. What we do know is that Valentin has carried guilt over what happened to Peter for a long time. That guilt reportedly shaped his behavior toward Peter later in life, watching over him, stepping in to help or protect him when he could, even when Peter didn't necessarily deserve it or reciprocate that care. And this week, spoilers indicate that Anna and Valentin are set to reconnect. That reunion could be the exact trigger point where Ghost Peter's true feelings about Valentin come pouring out. Does Peter blame Valentin for the childhood he never had a chance to escape? Does he see Valentin's guilt as insufficient, as too little too late? And more importantly, does he want Anna to make Valentin pay for a decision made before Peter could even understand what was happening to him? If Peter does push Anna toward Valentin, it would be one of the more tragic ironies in recent General Hospital storytelling, because Valentin has spent years trying to atone. He's the one person in this equation who has shown remorse. And yet remorse rarely satisfies a grudge that's had decades to fester, especially not a grudge being nursed by a version of Peter that exists purely as an extension of trauma with none of the complexity or growth a living person might eventually develop. But Valentin isn't the only name in play, and honestly, some fans think the far more emotionally loaded target is even closer to Anna than a Cassadine cousin with a guilty conscience. Because if we're talking about who Ghost Peter would truly want to punish, we have to talk about the person who was there in his final moments, the person whose choices that day sealed his fate for good. And that name might surprise you because it's not an enemy. It's one of Anna's closest friends. That's where we're headed next, and trust me, the details behind this next name are going to change how you're looking at this entire storyline. Stick around because we're just getting started. That name is Felicia Scorpio, and if you know the full history here, you already understand why this theory carries so much emotional weight. Felicia isn't some background player in Anna's life. She is one of Anna's closest, most trusted friends, someone who has stood beside daughter Maxie from him in that moment. He fell, badly injured, down an embankment afterward, and according to how that scene has been recounted, there was arguably time where intervention could have changed the outcome. Instead, the people around him made a different choice. They walked away. All except Anna. Reports and longtime viewers recall that Anna was the one who stayed. She sat with Peter, her own son, and held his hand until he took his last breath, ensuring that whatever else happened, he did not die completely alone. Now sit with that for a second, because that detail is the emotional core of this entire theory. Anna did not call for help. Anna did not fight to save him. She made a choice in that moment, and while it's easy to frame it as an act of mercy, a final tenderness toward a son whose life had been irredeemably twisted by trauma, it's just as easy to imagine that choice haunting her in the years since. Guilt doesn't always show up as quiet regret. Sometimes it manifests as something far more corrosive, and if Anna has spent all this time internally punishing herself for not fighting harder to save Peter, then a hallucination of him showing up now, whispering blame, whispering resentment, isn't coming out of nowhere. It's coming out of unresolved guilt finally finding a voice. So if Ghost Peter wants Felicia dead, the psychological read isn't just Peter hates the woman who killed him. It's something more layered than that. It's Anna's own guilt using Peter's voice to justify turning against someone she loves as some twisted form of self-punishment disguised as loyalty to her son. That's a genuinely disturbing dynamic if the show goes there, because it would mean Anna isn't just being manipulated by an external force. She'd be turning her own unprocessed trauma into a weapon against her best friend, someone who was only ever trying to protect her own daughter. And if that's not enough complexity for you, there's another layer to consider, because Felicia isn't the only person with unfinished business connected to Peter's long list of victims. There are two more names that keep surfacing in fan discussions and insider spoiler breakdowns, names tied to Peter's most calculated, most sustained campaign of cruelty. I'm talking about Jason Morgan and Drew Cain. If you've followed this show for any length of time, you know Peter's history with these two men runs deep, and none of it was provoked by them. Peter targeted Jason and Drew separately on multiple occasions, using elaborate schemes that spanned years. Jason was reportedly held for a significant stretch of time in a Russian facility, kept under the identity Patient 6, cut off from his life and his loved ones because of Peter's actions. And it doesn't stop there. Peter also orchestrated a memory transfer between Jason and Drew, reportedly at Helena Cassadine's direction, essentially rewriting who these two men believed themselves to be. On top of that, Peter faked Drew's death in a staged plane crash, another calculated deception designed purely to serve his own agenda. Here's what makes this angle interesting, though. If Ghost Peter is nursing grudges from beyond, logically, you'd expect resentment toward the people who wronged him, not the people he wronged. So why would Jason or Drew even factor into this theory at all? The answer comes down to Anna's own emotional connections. not Peter's. Reports indicate Jason is set to return to Port Charles soon, and Drew is expected to be recovering from his own ordeal around the same time frame. And significantly, Anna has a personal history with Jason that goes beyond simple colleague familiarity. The two reportedly shared a charged, emotional moment, even a kiss, during a mission in Africa when they believed they might not survive. That kind of shared near-death intimacy leaves a mark, and it's exactly the kind of detail a jealous, possessive hallucination might latch onto. Think about it from that angle. If Ghost Peter isn't purely a vessel for revenge, but also partly a manifestation of Anna's own fears, insecurities, and unresolved feelings, then his hostility toward Jason wouldn't need to make logical sense from Peter's actual history. It would only need to make emotional sense from Anna's psyche. A version of Peter jealous that Anna felt something for someone else, uncomfortable with the idea of his mother finding closeness with a man he once tried, Britt Westbourne. Here's the connective tissue. Anna is reportedly reconnecting with both of these women very soon, and both of them share deep, complicated ties to Faison's twisted legacy. Peter, by every indication, resented the fact that Nathan, another of Faison's children, managed to build a life that people actually loved him for, a life full of warmth and connection that Peter himself never got to experience. Both Britt and Liesl adored Nathan, and if Ghost Peter carries that old resentment forward, it's not hard to imagine him wanting Anna to make them suffer for the affection Nathan received that Peter never did. Spoilers indicate Britt is going to face difficult, pointed questions from Anna this summer, and many believe those questions will center on her brother Caesar, who is also one of Faison's children and therefore biologically tied to Peter as well. There's an entire unresolved thread here about how Caesar managed to infiltrate Port Charles at one point while impersonating Nathan, and Peter, given his own complicated history of deception and identity manipulation, might have very specific, very personal feelings about that whole situation. It's also worth remembering that Liesl herself has a violent history with Peter, having reportedly kidnapped and tortured him in the past, and even attempted to burn him alive as retaliation for his role in Nathan's death. That kind of history doesn't just disappear because someone dies. If anything, a hallucinated Peter carrying old wounds might see this as the perfect opportunity for a delayed reckoning, using Anna as the instrument to finally settle a score he never got to close out while he was alive. There's even a theory floating around that Peter may have had some undisclosed attachment to Cesar, given how the two of them grew up in overlapping circumstances under Faison's control, and that this attachment could be fueling a desire to punish Britt and Liesl for what he perceives as their role in Cesar's presumed death. It's worth noting Cesar isn't actually dead, but that detail may not matter to a hallucination built on rage rather than accuracy. And with the door to punishing Cyrus already closed, some fans believe Peter's fixation may simply redirect itself toward whichever unresolved grievance is still available and accessible through Anna's return to Port Charles. So where does that leave us? A handful of credible names, each with their own tangled emotional logic, each connected to Anna in ways that make the potential fallout deeply personal rather than random. But there's one more name on this list, one that almost feels like it comes out of left field compared to the others, and the story behind it involves a stairwell, a supposed death, and a shocking cover-up that never should have worked in the first place. That's coming up next, and once you hear the details, you'll understand exactly why some fans think this final name might be the most overlooked possibility of them all. That last name is Elizabeth Weber, and while most fans consider it a long shot compared to Valentin or Felicia, The backstory behind it is honestly one of the strangest chapters in Peter's entire arc, and it deserves a real look before we close this out. Here's what happened. Dr. Hamilton Finn was once involved in a physical confrontation with Peter in a stairwell inside General Hospital, a confrontation that ended with Peter falling down multiple flights of stairs to what everyone believed at the time was his death. And I want you to sit with how thoroughly this was confirmed, because this wasn't some rushed assumption made in the heat of panic. Finn checked Peter's pulse himself. A doctor trained specifically to recognize the signs of life or the absence of it declared him dead. Then Elizabeth, a nurse with just as much clinical training, checked as well and confirmed the same thing. Two medical professionals independently verifying the same outcome. And yet, Peter was alive. He had somehow escaped, despite what should have been an airtight confirmation of his death from two people whose entire professional expertise is built around knowing the difference between a living body and one that no longer has a pulse. It's one of those details that, when you actually stop and think about it, sounds almost absurd, and it's exactly the kind of unresolved oddity that fueled Charles, carrying the memory of what she did, or thought she did, that day. If part of what's fueling this hallucination is resentment toward the people who treated Peter's supposed death so carelessly, so clinically, shoving him into cold storage like an afterthought rather than treating him with any dignity, then Elizabeth becomes an emotionally logical, if narratively unlikely, candidate. Most fans and insiders, myself included if I'm being honest, tend to view this as the least probable outcome of everyone we've discussed today. It feels more like a footnote in Peter's story than a driving motivation. But soap storytelling has surprised us before, and sometimes the most overlooked name on a list like this ends up being exactly the twist a writing team wants to deliver, precisely because nobody's expecting it. So where does that leave us, now that we've walked through every name being floated? Valentin Cassadine, carrying guilt over the abandonment that shaped Peter's entire life. Felicia Scorpio, tied to the actual moment of Peter's death and Anna's own unresolved grief over not fighting harder to save him. Jason Morgan, less a target of Peter's own historical grudges, and more a reflection of Anna's private emotional entanglements. Liesl Obrecht and Britt Westbourne, both carrying complicated ties to Faison's legacy and Peter's resentment over the love Nathan received that he never did. And Elizabeth Weber, tangled up in the strange, almost darkly comic circumstances of his failed death and its cover-up. If I had to lean toward one outcome, and this is purely my own read based on emotional weight and narrative history, I think the strongest candidates remain Valentin and Felicia. Both of them carry the kind of deep, personal, decades-long connection to Anna and to Peter that would make the fallout genuinely devastating rather than simply dramatic for drama's sake. Soap storytelling tends to hit hardest when the target isn't a stranger or a minor antagonist, but someone whose loss would ripple through every relationship Anna has left. That's what makes Felicia in particular such a gut-punch possibility. This isn't just Anna's friend. This is decades of history, shared heartbreak, shared triumphs, all potentially unraveling because of a hallucination Anna hasn't told a single person about. But here's what I keep coming back to as the real core of this story, more than any single name on that list. The most disturbing part of all of this isn't who Peter might be pushing Anna toward. It's the fact that Anna is lying. She's home, surrounded by people who love her, people who are relieved to have her back, people actively rebuilding trust in her by handing her authority again, and she is choosing, actively choosing, to keep this hallucination a secret. Every conversation with Peter happens in private. Every warning sign is being hidden from the very people equipped to help her. That's the part of this story that should genuinely unsettle you. Because it means whatever happens next isn't going to be stopped by someone noticing early and intervening. It's going to happen because Anna let it get far enough that intervention becomes nearly impossible. And that raises the bigger question this story is really asking, the one underneath all the spoiler speculation and theory crafting. How much of what we call grief is actually unprocessed guilt wearing a different mask? Anna held her son's hand as he died. She didn't fight to save him, and by every account, she made peace with that choice in the moment. But peace, made in a moment of crisis, doesn't always hold once the adrenaline fades and real life resumes. Sometimes what looks like closure is really just a wound with a lid on it, and all it takes is coming home, stepping back into old routines, seeing old faces to crack that lid back open. Whether Peter's presence in Anna's mind is meant to be read as literal, some kind of supernatural or psychological manifestation the show is building toward, or purely metaphorical, a dramatized version of guilt finally demanding to be heard, the emotional truth underneath it is the same. Some losses don't stay buried just because time has passed. Before we wrap up, I'll be honest with you about something else. I did not have Wes Ramsay returning to General Hospital as Peter August on my radar for this summer, and judging by the reaction across soap social media, a lot of longtime fans feel the same way, with plenty of people openly saying this wasn't a storyline they were asking for. For what it's worth, Wes had recently been back on Days of Our Lives, stepping into a villainous role he'd actually played once before, nearly 2 decades ago, and by most accounts, he handled that return with a more restrained, more subtle touch than his General Hospital performances. So while the reaction to this Peter storyline has been mixed at best, I'm choosing to reserve judgment and see where the writers actually take it before deciding whether this was the right call. Because at the end of the day, that's really what this story is asking all of us to sit with. Not just who might die, not just which name from Peter's long, complicated history of grudges and manipulation ends up in the crosshairs, but what it means when the people who love us the most are the last ones to find out we're breaking. Anna Devane has survived nearly everything this world has thrown at her, but the thing that might finally undo her isn't an enemy at all. It's the version of her son she's built inside her own grief, whispering to her in the dark, and the silence she's choosing to protect around it. Whatever happens next in Port Charles, one thing is certain: the fallout won't just belong to whoever Peter is pushing her toward, it will belong to everyone who trusted Anna enough not to ask if she was really okay. Thanks for spending this time with me. I'm Anderson. This has been Soap Pulse, and I'll see you in the next one. Next.